Dessie Ellis, to the Minister for Agriculture, Food and the Marine to discuss the banning of surgical artificial insemination in greyhounds.
Minister, I am urging the Government to ban what I can only describe as a barbaric and invasive procedure used on greyhounds, whereby they are subjected to surgical artificial insemination. This highly controversial procedure is already banned in the UK, and it involves making a cut into the abdomen of the greyhound and inserting semen directly into the uterus. This is neither an isolated nor an occasional surgical procedure. It is my understanding that figures from 2023 show that in the previous 10 years, there has been almost 5,000 greyhound litters born in Ireland following surgical artificial insemination. And in the last 4 years alone, over 500 surgical artificial inseminations were performed on racing and coursing greyhounds. The process must be distressful for the dog, as it is anaesthetising the female greyhound and making a small incision in her abdomen in order to lift the uterus out, and the semen is then injected directly into the uterus using a fine needle. The uterus then placed back into the body of the greyhound and the wound is stitched up. The procedure also involves injecting semen extracted from deceased dogs. The British Veterinary Association has stated that in their view this practice is highly unethical and it's very painful for bitches because the subsequent pregnancy will put additional pressures on the abdominal wounds. All surgeries come with risks, and these animals are being subjected to a process that is not intended to correct some medical issue that can only be resolved by surgery. They are putting the life of the animal at risk by this non-vital surgical procedure. It is well known that greyhounds are prone to certain complications, like blood clotting, which can be exacerbated by this unnecessary surgical procedure. This surgical procedure is not for the good of the greyhound or for health reasons. It is about the greed of the greyhound industry and the money earned in winnings at the local dog track. In general, a greyhound should only have around 3 to 4 litters in its life. While in theory there is no limit on how many times a greyhound can undergo surgical artificial insemination, even if it is only carried out in 3 or 4 litters a greyhound should have for its well-being, it is still 3 or 4 litters too many. This procedure causes unnecessary pain and distress for the dog. It has nothing to do with the welfare of the dog, but everything to do with making money for their owners. Animal welfare organisations and people have been vocal in expressing their concerns about the procedure. I also welcome the Veterinary Council of Ireland's announcement in April 24 that it had updated its Code of Professional Conduct for veterinary practitioners, prohibiting veterinarians from carrying out surgical artificial inseminations in dogs due to ethical and welfare consideration. It is a cruel and unnecessary and clearly unethical procedure. A report from the Joint Committee on Agriculture, Food and the Marine recommended a complete ban on surgical artificial inseminations, noting it carries risks even when performed in a controlled, sterile environment. The practice must be banned, and we can see from the consultation process carried out by the Veterinary Council of Ireland that the public are also against this procedure. A report by the Working Group on the Control of Dogs recommended revising the Animal Health and Welfare Act 2013 to prohibit surgical artificial insemination in canines. I would urge you, Minister, to look seriously at these recommendations and introduce the necessary amendments to address this barbaric practice.
Thank you, Concordia. I'm taking this on behalf of Martin Hayden, the Minister for Agriculture, Food and Marine, and I'd like to thank the Deputy for raising this important issue and doing it so passionately. The Veterinary Council of Ireland announced in April 2024 that it has updated its Code of Professional Conduct for veterinarian practitioners to prohibit veterinarians from carrying out surgical artificial insemination in dogs due to ethical and welfare considerations. However, this new prohibition does not apply to greyhounds, as the practice is provided for in legislation under the Artificial Insemination of Greyhound Regulations 2005. The report on the Working Group on Control of Dogs, which was approved by Cabinet in March 23 and which has been published online, includes a recommendation that surgical AI in canines be prohibited, where the word canine encompasses all breeds of dogs, including greyhounds. In 2024, the Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine held a public consultation on whether the practice of carrying out surgical AI in greyhounds should be banned or not. The public consultation has now closed and will contribute to the legislative process. The results of the public consultation will be published in due course. The Department of Agriculture is closely examining this issue and will be providing advice on the appropriate course of action in the near future. There is a strong commitment to improve animal welfare in the greyhound racing sector in the programme for government, and this government support is contingent on a guarantee of welfare standards being upheld by Rosíocht Con Éireann on an annual basis to ensure Rosíocht Con Éireann continues to provide financial support for the Irish Retired Greyhound Trust and contributes to rehoming greyhounds. Since 2020, the Department of Agriculture has ensured that a minimum of 10% of the Horse and Greyhound Racing Fund allocation to Rosíocht Con Éireann is ring-fenced for welfare, including integrity. Rosíocht Con Éireann has confirmed that from 2019 to the end of Q1 2025, it has spent €19.3 million on traceability, care and welfare. Rosíocht Con Éireann continue to operate an ever-expanding Greyhound Care Fund, utilising income from the Horse and Greyhound Racing Fund towards the implementation of the highest possible welfare standards at kennels and racing facilities throughout the country. To facilitate the Department of Agriculture in monitoring expenditure on welfare, quarterly reports on progress regarding the continued implementation of care and welfare programme are required from Rosíocht Con Éireann. Provisions in the Greyhound Racing Act 2019 support Rosíocht Con Éireann in strengthening greyhound welfare. This legislation strengthens the legal basis for the industry with a view to fortifying the integrity of the greyhound racing sector and improving provision for greyhound traceability. In addition to its care and welfare programme, Rosíocht Con Éireann has a comprehensive range of activity in the areas of regulatory, integrity and laboratory functions. This includes activity on welfare inspections, investigations, testing regimes, veterinarian services and financial support for the Irish Retired Greyhound Trust and contributions to private rehome agencies. These care and welfare initiatives ran by Rosíocht Con Éireann are a key priority. A key element underpinning the welfare in any sector is traceability, so the provision of full IT traceability system for racehound greyhound is important in this respect. The Rosíocht Con Éireann traceability system came into operation on the 11th of January 2021. The system provides a mechanism to ensure that racing greyhounds are properly registered and traceable throughout their lives up to the point of rehoming retirement. At the track, Rosíocht Con Éireann makes considerable efforts to minimise the risk of injury by investigating considerable sums of money each year on track maintenance and improvements. Vet surgeons are present at race times to ensure that only fit dogs run and that injured dogs receive prompt treatment.
Thanks, Minister. I think, you know, the vast majority of people are not aware of this practice. I wasn't even aware of it for a long time myself. And when you explain this to people, they cannot understand how such a practice could take place, how any dog, greyhound or otherwise, could be taken out, their uterus could be taken out, injected and then put back in. It just does not add up. It's just totally and utterly barbaric. Minister, you said there about, in June 24, Minister McConaughey announced the public consultation on the surgical artificial insemination in greyhounds, whether it to be banned or not. My colleague, Senator Chris Andrews, raised this issue twice in the Shannon, on the 1st of May 25 and the 19th of June 25. To be told that the public consultation had closed, which you said, and the results will be published in due course. When will these results be It's dragging on and on. This is a question of cruelty to animals, animal rights, and it's not something that we can drag on. The suffering of these animals is just not good enough. This practice is outlawed in the UK, Sweden and the Netherlands. And I accept what you said about Rossiach Con Éireann, about the rehousing of greyhounds, which has been raised over the last number of years, and I won't go into the reasons why, but that has been a very, very important and well taken up thing. Because I've noticed, even in my own area, a large amount of people walking greyhounds. So that is working. But this here is to do with cruelty to animals. And Rossiach Éireann should have a role in trying to get this sorted out. And the minister, really, this needs to be brought forward. It's no use saying we're looking at this. This is going on well over a year or so when it's been brought up. Thank you.
Arach and Cricknet.
Thank you, Cahirach. Well, on Minister Hayden's behalf, I thank the Deputy for his dedication to this topic. He agrees more can be done, and both he and his department are fully committed to progressing this work. I have to admit, honestly, Deputy, I was unaware of this practice until I was asked to cover this topical debate here this evening. But the Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine has lead policy responsibility within the government for animal welfare and does take its role most seriously. There is a strong commitment to the policy that animal welfare standards are vigorously applied in a fair and even-handed manner, and we know why such improvements had to be introduced over the last number of years, but there have been. The Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine keeps animal welfare legislation under review with respect to developments in the area of animal welfare and with regard to the practical lessons from operating the 2013 Animal Health and Welfare Act. But you've asked a very fair question tonight in terms of when can we expect a public consultation that has closed over 12 months ago. When can we expect the conclusions and the findings of that, and will that public consultation feed into the legislative changes that you're asking here tonight? Honest answer, I don't know, but you've asked a fair question, and I will relate that back to the Minister who has asked me to deputise for him this evening, and ask for him or his officials to come back directly to you with an answer to that fair question.
Guramaigov.